Welcome everyone to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today's is another quick check-in type of reading, and this time it's about what's coming up for you in January 2022. I wanted to do it as a quick check-in because a little bit later in the month there will be a video about 2022 as a whole, so a 12-month long range pick a card reading. But I didn't want January as a month to feel like the poor relation that was left out in the cold. So I thought I'd also do one for January itself, and particularly to pick up for people who are really looking at January as a sort of a reset, a chance to move forward, a chance to do something new, whatever it might be, that just the kind of sense and the energy of the first month in the new year can often bring, and to support your New Year's resolutions if you choose to make any. So, as I usually do with quick check-ins, I'm doing 4 readings rather than 3. Hopefully it will still be done in a reasonable period of time, because I try to do these more quickly and really get to the point. Normally somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes long, but it could well be, depending on what comes up, that it goes a little bit longer and more like my normal readings. We'll see what happens. What we'll be looking at first is using tarot to look at what are the key energies that will be around you in January 2022, and what's Spirit's advice about making the most of those, getting as much as you can about the beginning of the new year. Then we'll drill into some specific information with oracle cards around love and relationships, career and well-being. Have a bit of a look at what astrological sort of energy and so forth is around, and sort of fortune energy in January for you. And then we're going to finish off with some sort of signs and information and advice sort of from the sort of angelic realm. So hopefully that will make for an interesting and comprehensive reading for you. What I've done is decided, as I often do now, to use a different tarot pack for each reading, because I think that works quite well for people in working out where they're really drawn for a reading. And I've chosen a card from each of the packs for each of the readings that is the Ace of Cups. The reason that I've chosen that is because I feel like it really is a blessing. I look at all aces as blessings, and I like the concept of a blessing into the new year, which is about emotional fulfillment, dream fulfillment, all of those sorts of things. And I think the Ace of Cups really exemplifies that when it's working at its highest vibration. So for the first pack, actually I'll put down the numbers as well. 1, 2, 3, and 4. For pile 1, I have the Ace of Cups here from the Flights of Fantasy Tarot, so that's the tarot being used for reading number 1. For pile 2, I have the Ace of Cups from the Dream Visions Tarot. For pile 3, I have the Ace of Cups from the Crystal Unity Tarot. And for pile 4, I have the Ace of Cups from the Reigning Rouge Tarot. I've also, for those that like chakra energies to help choose, I have the root chakra for pile 1, the throat chakra for pile 2, the third eye chakra for pile 3, and the heart chakra for pile 4. That's not saying that's what each of those readings is about. That's just the sort of chakra energy that I felt called upon to put across the choices for you. So use whatever way or ways you have to work out what reading or readings to go to. And of course, you're welcome to go to more than one if you feel drawn to more than one. When you do know which one you want to go to, the timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. These cards over here are under the Ace of Cups, and we'll use that to drill down into the specific areas a little bit later in the reading. But to start, this is the tarot spread to first look at what are some of the key energies for you in January 2022. And I've got to say, this looks pretty promising. It definitely is the right reading for anybody who is looking to step up in their career or their creativity or who they are in the world in some way. And there's very, very strong energy around that. Maybe coming out of a period during 2021 where you felt a little bit suppressed, a little bit like your abilities, your charisma, your fire, your passion, whatever it might have been, might have felt a little bit hidden, a little bit under the surface, but you are ready to come out really strong into the new year, because there's very, very strong major arcana energy with you, and also the Ten of Pentacles, which suggests to me that there is a lot of capacity to start to bring material reality into something, to start to build wealth, to manifest and so forth. When you put those cards together, the Magician, which is the potential to be a master manifester, with the Emperor, which is about stepping into your own power, possibly a powerful position, possibly a leadership position. And Temperance, with the balance, having the balance and the wisdom to bring about good outcomes, it has actually a really strong spiritual feeling of someone who is literally, whether you have consciously looked to do this and studied it and so forth, or whether it's just natural to you, kind of found the keys to the kingdom, the law of attraction, manifestation, something like that, in a very material way, and a way that is going to raise your profile. For some of you, you may have a new job offer or something like that, but for many of you, I feel like it's consolidation more than something new, and it's coming out from behind the scenes on something, because with the King of Wands reverse, it's the only suppressed energy, and I think you will be coming into your own and being seen for who you are. And look, you could be the ultimate rainmaker, as they say in organizations, where you bring the money in, you bring in the new opportunities, you bring in the new clientele. So that might resonate for some of you. But for others, this is just a period of time where I feel like in this last year, you've spent a lot of time working on skills, on your brand, on who you are, and you're about to come out and really be seen. Now, if this is around love or relationships, and it'll be interesting to see what cards come on the specifics, then you are ready to step into who you are and be much more in control of a relationship, and maybe make the next step, take a decision in that relationship to move forward. If this is potentially, if you're like the Magician and the Temperance, and the Emperor is your other party, and this is not about gender, this is just about energies, and I'm getting that some of you, this might be the case. You have met your right person by the looks of things, or certainly right for right now at the very least, though I think there's a long-term connection there if this is actually about a relationship, because it's meeting your match. I think that you may have had to suppress your own power, your own abilities and all that sort of thing in the past to not threaten the person that you were with. But it feels like if this is what that is about, if there is actually something about a relationship, there's a very long-term thing operating here because of having found that balance of the sort of different types of power almost. It might be that you are more the sort of spiritual wisdom sort of power, and they are more the sort of material power. But in either case, if that's the case, that's incredibly good. So either way, this is either about you coming into your own power, into a leadership role, into the public spotlight in some way, something like that, because you've done the work, or it is about that kind of connection that really has that long-term outcome around it. But it's very, very positive. I do think you're due it. I do think with the King of Wands here, it's the last residual energy of the last year, or maybe even last couple of years, because let's face it, everybody's gone through quite a bit in 2020 and 2021. And for some of you, might literally be able to be coming out into the world again, coming post the sort of worst of the lockdowns and so forth. So that's possible as well. But straight out of the gate, you couldn't ask for much more. This is really, really positive in whatever aspect or aspects it is showing for you. And I really think it's a time for, because of the Magician here and around your capacity to manifest, do set some intentions. If you don't set resolutions, set intentions, because the power you have and the energy you have around that can really manifest into something long-term and very worthwhile. So we're not seeing a huge amount of challenge here. It doesn't mean that there won't be any challenges. We all have things in every month of every year that we have to kind of deal with. But let's ask Spirit for advice around either leveraging this even more, or being aware of any challenges or issues that you might need to be aware of to make sure that you get the best out of this in January 2022. Wow. I'd love to see the natal astrology charts of you guys that have come to this. This is really good. I mean, it's really good. Again, there is the few things that Spirit is sort of saying to make the most of whatever this is. With the Seven of Swords, I always feel that's like check the contractual details. So if you are moving into a higher position, if you are moving into some sort of business proposition, if you're negotiating something like that, if you're stepping away from the structures of an organisation and starting to build your own business, which is possible with the Nine of Pentacles and the Ten of Pentacles together, always check the fine print with everything with the Seven of Swords. Working at its best, and I think most things for you in January are working at the best because you've done the work and you're very smart, and it'd be very, very hard to pull one over you, to be honest. I think the Seven of Swords, when it works at its strength, is the master negotiator. So I think it is really showing that you can negotiate what you need to do something new. I mean, this is very interesting energy. You've got the Fool, which is the sort of stepping out into something new. So as I said, some of you, I did get that some of you, there might be something new you're stepping into, but there's a very firm foundation if that's the case. If not, whatever this is, even if it does have longevity, which I think it will have, or is very materially well aspected, it's the beginning of a much longer journey. It's the beginning of a new cycle of understanding and growth and development for you. And I think that the one thing that Spirit might be saying is that you may sometimes, if you had any issues to deal with, because you are very balanced, it might be that it just slightly tips towards the thought processes as opposed to necessarily the heart and the emotion and so forth around things. That serves you very well for the most part. I would never say turn off this brain, because this brain is exceptional and is really going to take you forward. But I just think it's interesting that King of Swords is next to the Star. I feel like Spirit is saying here that a little bit of the innocence, a little bit of the real belief on some level of what really could evolve out of this. I think you may underestimate, even now, even if this is a step up in some way, you can underestimate to some degree what you could make of this, because you sort of go into this pragmatic look at the details level, which is helpful, but it could sometimes war a little bit with your hope and your dreams. And don't forget that you're also the magician. So I think that Spirit is saying there is so much potential here. And yes, be very clear about things, because when you have this level of energy and this level of potential of like material outcomes, I would say starting to be seen and then really building over the next year or two, that can draw people to you that you need to be careful of. But right at the moment, the thing is to keep that sense of faith in yourself, because there's something very intrinsic to you, your power of manifestation, your innovation and so forth. And it's possible that your belief in that, or your hope, or your belief in the world, maybe that's why you feel like you have to rely on your mind a lot, has been rocked a little bit in the last couple of years for some reason. Maybe someone came in and stole your thunder in some way, or there was someone who got a promotion who probably didn't deserve it compared to you, but you really are coming into a very good cycle now. And I think that's the only thing that Spirit's saying. It's saying like overall the energy is really, really positive for January, and there's so much potential with what you can start to harvest. Actually, I do think you've set the seeds before. It's just that maybe you've done it from a bit behind the scenes, and you're now coming more out into the world to be seen in whatever this is. And if this is around a relationship, then don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. You can find the way, if there's differences between you, and particularly if you are two powerful people in different ways, you probably do need to negotiate the boundaries a little bit, and you maybe need to negotiate some degree of independence and autonomy, that you don't get subsumed in this energy, because it is all about balance. But if that's the case, again, don't be so much in your head that you lose the joy of it. Like, allow yourself to celebrate, allow yourself to enjoy what's coming through, because it's far more stable than you may fear that it is. Okay, so that's really exciting. What a fantastic way to set off this set of readings. So what I did do is that I also had these cards that were intuitively chosen before the reading, and they're around career, well-being and love and relationships. And so I have a heart code oracle for each of those topics and another oracle to complement it. So let's start first with career. I do think for many of you this is around career, business or something. And we have self-worth. So yes, you are really going to start to understand your worth, your literal material worth. If you have suppressed that in the last year, if you have not charged for something, you've given away a lot free, or you've undercharged, or you haven't put yourself forward for a promotion or something like that, this is the time to really recognize what you bring to the table and to align your self-worth with your material outcomes in some way. Don't sit in the King of Wands energy reversed. I think that was last year, or the year that I'm actually doing this reading right now in, but I think that was 2021. This is 2022 is meant to sort of bring you more into focus with self-worth. Oh, look, and then there's a windfall. So yeah, there's money. There's money around you. Whether that literally happens in January 2022, or whether you put in place the preconditions in January 2022 for the money, there is definitely financial growth in 2022, I would say, for you, definitely, because you're really starting to rate yourself and understand what you deserve because of your skills and what you bring to the table. All right, let's look at well-being. And we have holistic therapy. It can be a little bit hard to read this, but that says holistic therapy and patience. Okay, so I think that shows that you will have this sense right from the beginning that you are onto something that's a winner, that you're heading in the right direction. But to go to the 9 and the 10 of Pentacles does take a bit of patience. And maybe if you sometimes feel that, like, where is it, why isn't it here right now? Maybe this is saying that some form of therapy that is sort of based on, sort of holistic modalities could be a helpful thing to do. Or it could be suggesting that the way to look at it is a very holistic way, that even if things take a little bit of time to fully grow, as long as you're building it in the way that you feel comfortable with and you can sort of see it coming through, eventually the windfall will come. Eventually, but always think of yourself, start from the self-worth around looking at this whole thing as holistic. It's not just about career or even a relationship, as I say. If this is a relationship that is rising your material outcomes in some way, or your presence in the world in some way, it is still about you, and you look at it as a holistic thing, not as just a separate windfall or a separate relationship. This is telling you something about you, something about the skills and the abilities that you have. Okay, so let's look at relationships. So we have adventure. Well, I'd say if there is a relationship, it's going to be fun. Oh, you can't make this up. And the card here reversed is fun. So I think this is picking up the one bit that I was saying that was there, the one little bit of warning that is in this for you. With fun reversed, you have an opportunity for adventure and something new around a relationship. So if this main thing is around career, there is also the potential of a new relationship coming in, possibly with someone who has very strong sort of like air energy. So, Gemini, Libra or Aquarius, or it might be that there's a meeting of the minds, and maybe it even connects. Maybe that holistic thing is it's something around your material life and your career that brings this in. But it is saying don't underestimate the value of fun, because that's the one thing. I think it's like if you get too serious and lose that star and fool energy, all you're doing is shortchanging yourself, because the reality is what the fears that you have, you don't need to have. This, whatever these things are, relationship, career, whatever it is, this is a very good cycle you're heading into. So have faith in that and have faith in yourself. Okay, so let's have a look at some astrology energy around you in January 2022. Okay, I'll get to that one because I'll actually look for some other planets around the conjunction. I always do that when I see an aspect. This does suggest for many this could be about relationship, this could be about romance, or it could be because there is such a strong feeling of material outcomes, career, presence in the world, that the two are somehow connected. It's certainly, again, a really positive thing around creativity, around your life path, because the sun is actually the ruling planet of the 5th house. It's about self-expression and drama and romance and all of those sorts of things. So I do think there's a connection in this. I actually think for most of you, I think there's a career or a business or creativity sort of new direction that's really going to start to flower in 2022. But I think you're also going to meet someone if you haven't. If you are in a relationship, then that looks very well aspected. It looks like it's the right relationship, that it's going to work with you and so forth. In the one case where if you are in one but it's not working, that might be picking up the King of Wands reversed, and it might be that you shift during 2022, you shift towards something that is more a meeting of equals. But I think if you're not with someone at the moment, you're going to meet an equal in creativity and power and all of those sorts of things. And it's going to be highly transformative, and you're going to have the sense of it like something's happening in January 2022. Something is happening that is sort of revolutionary for you. And it's interesting that the tarot card is the Fool. So this is picking up this. This is again, I think, Spirit saying don't underestimate this. Don't lose the adventure and fun sense of it. You can go through this revolution that is going to happen in your life because it is going to take you somewhere very, very good. So let's shuffle again, and then I'm going to just deal out till I get 2 planets or asteroids to see what the conjunction is. A conjunction is 2 energies working in harmony because they're together. They sort of amplify each other. So let's see what else there is with that for you in January 2022. Pluto, wow, power. You are all about power. But, you know, with the Magician, I have no doubt you're fine to deal with the Pluto and the Moon. Wow. Wow. No wonder this is so strong. Like, there's some major stuff. I think many of you, as I say, you know, I'd love to see your chart. I think many of you, there's some major aspects coming in, maybe major sort of change energies coming in your chart, maybe, you know, sort of something like a Saturn return or some really major thing like that. Because there's a lot of change. This is revolutionary. I do think you felt very suppressed in some way in the last year or two, but you're coming out, right at the gates, straight out from the gates. And it's your emotions and your creativity and your psychic energy and that Magician energy and all of that sort of thing, because this is the High Priestess, which is a natural sort of connection also to the Magician, is connecting to major transformative energy. There may be something about what you are going to bring into the world which is transformative in some way with Pluto there, transformative on a very deep emotional level for people. It may be that whatever this journey was that has the tail end of the King of Wands reversed for you is something that you almost productize and you can take out into the world and people really relate to it. Sort of like having gone through a really difficult time or feeling lost in some way and then having found the direction that you can really commit to, and that revolution, it's like you lived it and now you're showing it to the world in some way. And if this is a relationship, my God, it's big time. If this is new, it's big time, it's transformative, it's probably a soulmate or a twin flame or something like that, majorly transformative. And it could be connecting with the 5th house, but that could also be a product of your wisdom and what you've learnt, which is transformative to others. Really powerful reading, really powerful, straight out of the gate, as I say. So let's use Lenormand, which is what I think of as one of the more classic fortune decks, because I think often oracles sort of show aspects of the energy, so does tarot in many ways, but I think Lenormand can sort of show things that either come out from the external that you don't necessarily have as much control over. You can obviously make choices around it, but it's more like a classic fortune deck. So let's see what you get with that energy for January 2022. Okay, so this could be read a couple of ways. Firstly, if you identify with being a woman, then it could be you as a significator here. And if that's the case, you may, I think the clouds in that case are moving away from you. The sort of light side is directed towards you. So it's picking up this. So that would definitely be confirming that the worst is over, of whatever it was, that you are moving into a better frame, a better phase and so forth. If it's not you, it could be the significant other, and again, it doesn't even really have to be a female. The lady tends to suggest that, you know, it's somebody who would identify with that at least. But it could be that you are helping someone with that, and maybe that helps you move what you do forward, or it could be that you are helping women in general around something, around clearing out that sort of energy. If this is sort of you productizing something you've gone through yourself, I think. So it is suggesting moving into better times. The light side is connected to the person here. So I think that's just, again, there's nothing, the worst is kind of done, you know, and that's not to say everything's sunshine and roses every day, and you do have to think things through and negotiate things and everything, but there is something very, very positive coming through for you. So what we want to do to finish off is to sort of see the sort of signs or energy, the angelic signs or energy that can help you really know that this is manifesting. So first of all, I'm going to pull a card that shows what might be signs for you when that's happening, and then we're going to use a set of dice that are around fortune and around angelic numbers. So firstly, the signs that might resonate for you. Doorways. That kind of makes a lot of sense. I feel like you are walking through a doorway. You're leaving a pattern behind. You're moving into something else. And this doorway is taking you to very bright sort of future, sort of something that has a lot more resonance and stability than I think what you've gone through in the last year or two. You may literally dream of doorways. You may see doorways. Ornate doorways in homes might sort of be a signal to you. You may hear songs that talk about doorways. You may come across that sort of concept or that word quite often in books that you read. So pay attention to that, because it's literally, I think, a sign of, yes, you're heading in the right direction, you're going through the right door. So, as I say, I want to finish off with the fortune dice. These dice are made by a woman, her name is Bobby Richardson, and her company is New Earth Production. She has her own YouTube channel, which she asked me to mention when she agreed that I could use these dice in readings. So thank you, Bobby, for that. They're really interesting. Like there's two dice that are kind of channeled energy that she gets. She channels energy from sort of angelic and sort of starseed type of realms. And then the other are numbers that pick up angelic numbers. So let's just sort of see what the final sort of energy is for you around January 2022. So firstly, it's kind of difficult to read these, so I need to just tell you what they say. So this is dreams. So that suggests that you will get a lot of energy and a lot of information through dreams. And that doesn't surprise me with Moon, Pluto and Uranus. You're very dialed in on that sort of level. Some of you may be working in a spiritual area, and you're going to be very adept at that if you are, particularly with the magician. But I think many of the people who've come here maybe not even aware how much their inspiration is sort of psychic and spiritually attuned. And we also have contact. So it is possible that this is picking up some sort of contact with sort of starseed or angelic energies and so forth, a real sense of that presence around you. So pay attention to that. Don't sort of decide that it's not something. Then we have the numbers 1, 5, 5. So I think that is very much picking up this change energy, Moon, Pluto, Uranus and so forth. And I think the key is seeing it as an adventure. So everything is, interestingly enough, coming back to the romance side of things. So for many of you, this might be about finding your right life partner, about that sort of journey. And as I say, it just might have some sort of who you are in the world and career aspect. If that doesn't resonate, that doesn't have to. It may just be that kind of sense of relationship is beyond love relationship. It's about relationships with others and about who you're going to be in the world. But fives are always numbers of change, disruption, movement. There's sometimes conflict with fives if you think about the fives in the tarot, but I think, you can handle that, because with the 1, you have a very strong sense of self and presence. It aligns obviously to the Magician card and so forth in the tarot. So I think that really says that you have the ability to go through what could be a potentially fairly wild and exciting ride with all the change that is coming in. But I think that promise of the 9 of Pentacles and 10 of Pentacles tells you you're going to land somewhere that you want to land. So that's fine. Watch out for things like, on a digital clock, 1:55 or 11:55, those sort of things, again, as signs that you might be connecting. If you ever see a doorway with some combination of those numbers, it doesn't necessarily mean you go through that doorway, because it could be somebody's private home. But I think it might be an additional sign that something that you're thinking about or doing at that time is ready to support that change. But this is, I think, the reason that Spirit wanted the Pentacles to be there is to tell you that the end of this is actually a very stable, very good outcome, but it's the beginning of an exciting adventure. And if you see it as that, and you connect more and more and more to your inner knowing around it, and you understand that this is finally you getting to express your self-worth in any number of areas, I think that's helpful. And it might also be why holistic therapy turned up, because it might be a bit exhausting sometimes. So sometimes you just might need to go to the spa or something and allow yourself to do that, because this is for the long haul, and this is for something that is really going to last and build something for you. And that change and that revolution could be a little bit tiring sometimes, but hell, it's going to be exciting as well too. So I'm really excited for you. I would love to hear in comments if you kind of already have a sense of what this is. Don't give away anything that's really, could be IP or creative on that sort of level. Always give that warning. But if you can sort of see that and you feel that energy coming through, then I think that's a confirmation. So January 2022 is going to be really interesting. So I hope that you enjoyed that reading, Pile 1, and if so, please like the video and subscribe. And as I say, if you feel like sharing, I'd be really interested, because it's fantastic energy, and I really wish you the best with this. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So these cards are the first sort of idea around the energies of January 2022. We'll supplement them or clarify them with some advice from Spirit. I think that there's a lot probably about relationship, either your internal relationship with yourself and your inner knowing and how you want to manifest that in the world, or potentially with others. I am definitely getting, for some, there could be an issue around children here. I don't think it's not a bad issue, but it almost feels for some like almost empty nest. It could be that you are a parent and you have a child or children who are at a point where maybe they go away for school, or they leave home because they're sort of stepping out into the world and something like that. So if that's the case, there's a little bit of emotional sort of loss or regret. But the choices that you make about how to connect to them, they will stay connected to you. This is just completing a cycle if that's the case. So if that resonates, there's something about January 2022 that takes that to the next level. And your inner knowing, overall that choice is the right choice, that they can go out and they can do something good for themselves. There's also, I'm getting that if you're looking at whether you would start a family or something like that, it feels like there are some options and information, particularly if it's been difficult for some reason, either health-wise or even, in terms of having the resources and the time. It looks like maybe there are some choices and options that can move that energy of disappointment around that out. And again, maybe information will come to you around that, maybe even from something, in another country or something like that with the world. So there's some very specific things around children and family in this energy, but it's overall good. It is saying that there are choices that are good and can build in a way that really works and that sort of completes a cycle in some way. So you'll know if that resonates. If it's not about children, family and so forth for you, then I think it's that you have developed for yourself a very strong inner knowing about who you want to be in the world, what you want to manifest in the world, what a good relationship would mean. If you are someone who is in a relationship at the moment, it may not be at this point in time giving you the emotional sustenance you want. It is possible with some choices and restructuring that you could move forward. It's also possible that you may make a decision in that sense to complete it. But complete it with, this doesn't feel like a really bitter breakup. It feels like just basically it's done its time, if that's the case. So there's a evolution and a moving on so that you can be open up to something new and bring that sort of energy in, and that you somehow can make the decision. If it's not around a relationship that you're in, it may be decisions you make about your life that can potentially bring something in. You may have been spending so much time on your career in the last year or two, or even just the way we've all been sort of stuck at home half the time in the last couple of years may have limited those sort of emotional choices, but this is definitely saying choices coming in if that's the case. If it's about career, you literally have some choices to maybe now complete out a cycle where you weren't doing something that was as true to yourself. You can start to let that energy go and make the choices about what you want to build. So it's a very positive energy overall, but there is a bittersweet feeling to it. It's like either something that needs to change because it's evolved to the point that it's completed and needs to change, as I say, with the empty nest syndrome potentially, or with a relationship, or it's that you have to sort of go beyond disappointments before around career or who you were in the world or relationships, so that you can make the choices to structure yourself in a way that you can bring new energy in. And you know that you're very dialed into, at the very least, who you are. You're very self-aware, but I think with a high priestess you're probably quite dialed in spiritually as well. So let's ask Spirit for a little bit of advice and clarification on this, about how to make the best of this, because I feel like it's a transition thing and it's a choice you make, and it has a very material outcome in some way, but a very promising one, I think. But it does require a choice. It does require closing off one cycle for a new cycle, changing the way of a relationship, changing the relationship you're in, changing whatever your business is or whatever it might be. So let's have a look and see what Spirit would say to clarify this. Okay, so Spirit is saying that underneath this, even though I feel like the promise of this, and in January 2022 and going forward, is the promise of you being able to extricate, move on, close off these sort of things so you can move to something more positive, it wasn't without a struggle. It wasn't without its challenges, because Spirit is saying that you actually had to deal with in whatever this was, quite a lot of negative sort of critique of you, or authority figures around you, or something like that. Maybe even people who were not dealing with you honestly. So if this is around your business or your career in some way, you are coming from a base where there was maybe a disappointment because people were not honest about something. You had a competitor that was not averse at all to duplicitous sort of behaviour or abuses of power or something like that. And it's possible that there's some connection again to family there. So for some of you, it might be a family business, a family connection, family expectations or whatever. But you've worked this out. Whatever this is, you worked it out because you're ready now with the Seven of Wands to move forward. That completion of that cycle, that understanding you've come to, allows you to know you can level up. I feel as though you're someone, if it's around career or around who you are in the world or something like that, maybe others have worked to make you feel less than, but you've realised that, and you know that you have choices. You have choices about who you connect with. And yes, some of it might have been disappointing because it could have been in a love relationship, it could have been in close friendships, but you realised it and you're closing the door on that, and you do need to. Spirit is saying that's the right thing to do. I think Spirit is telling me that you're a very kind-hearted person, and this is to some degree how some of this has happened, that people have taken advantage of that. And maybe you're sort of someone who isn't used to sort of really putting themselves forward, you know, like they wanted like their skills. You want your skills and your abilities and what you can do in the world and who you could be in a relationship to sort of just be seen, and you just do it rather than having to blow your own trumpet. But Spirit is saying you do need now to blow your own trumpet a bit in some way, either to bring in the right relationship and let go of patterns around relationships that may have even started back in your family, as I say, or to be more in the world, or if it was picking up changes around children that you had yourself, there might be just saying that there's some issue you might have dealt with your family when you were young or whatever, and the issues around that, and it's reminding you to not make a decision that could replicate that kind of energy if that's the case. So because there's really good warm energy here, and I think that your innate kindness will work for that. But if you're sort of feeling the loss of a child or something like that going out into the world, don't go into patterns from your childhood. Be prepared to stand in your truth and who you are, and give that warmth of the wands. I feel like that's warmth as well as courage in this case to do whatever it is. But for some of you, it's leaving a relationship that has done its time and possibly done a bit of a number on you. And for others, it is leaving some sort of work or career situation that has worked similarly. But you now have the courage to move forward. There's something that's shifting in January 2022, and a knowing, some information that you've got, an opportunity possibly that you didn't have before. So if you've been in a workplace that's really competitive and nasty, then I think in January 2022, it's a good time, if you haven't started yet, to start looking for something else, because I think something will come quite quickly, and it may even come in January 2022. So let's have a look at the oracle cards that were under the Ace of Cups that brought you to this reading. So I have an oracle card, a heart oracle card for each of career, well-being and relationships, and also another oracle that I think connects with those sort of topics for each of them. So let's start first of all with career, because I do think for many of you this might be a career thing. And we've got leadership. Yeah, you are meant to be stepping up. You are meant to be having an opportunity. You are meant to be taking a leadership. And if you relate to this as a career thing, then there's been someone who's been really competing with you, but you're ready to win. I think you're positioning yourself to win. And we've got the rebel. So maybe you do have to be a bit rebellious. Maybe you do have to move on from where you are once an opportunity comes up. Or maybe you need to rebel against those that tried to control you in some way. You might have been working for someone that was very difficult to work for. But when you get this opportunity, when you have this choice, then if that's the case, I think Spirit is saying, don't feel bad about leaving that behind. Step up into who you are. You're ready to step up into a leadership role. And ultimately, even if people try to manipulate you to keep you down, don't let that happen. All right, let's have a look at wellness. And we have nature and thoughts. Okay, so I think there's a dual message to the nature there. I think that your nature has a lot to do with whether you feel physically well and happy. Yeah, so if you feel that you can be making material choices, you can feel very, very good in yourself. If you feel others are dictating to you or are leeching you emotionally, then equally your nature is not necessarily always to fight back. So it has a very draining effect on you. And I think this is giving you the opportunity to understand that about your nature, so you put better boundaries around, you close off that sort of almost vampiric energy that this has. And not to let your thoughts overtake you, because there's something about the use of thought as well too here. I think people use philosophy or their concept of ethics, and trust me, if these are people, they're not really that ethical, but they use the words really cleverly. So let your thoughts go to what feels natural and right, not to what might be being told to you is the right thing to do or the way we do things around here. All right, let's see about relationship. And we have time apart. Okay, that's interesting. And we have caution upside down. So going right back to that beginning thing where I felt some of this might be around family, and so not to, as I say, replicate family patterns that you went through and to sort of have a more thought out thing. It might be saying time apart is good. That you don't need to be worried about it. Caution reverse suggests to me that things will go a lot more smoothly than you think. If it's around a relationship that you think has got a bit difficult and you can't make a decision about whether you want to end it, then maybe time apart allows you to do it. And I think for most of you, you will then move on from it, because I think it's more that you're worried about hurting people than you are about anything else with this. It's sort of like, it's not, I think you kind of know what the right decision is. And if it is to bring something in and to allow you to think about something, then make sure you give yourself that time apart. Maybe go into nature, maybe go and sort of, take a holiday in a log cabin in the forest or something, or do something like that. Go hiking every day and use it sort of as a health thing to sort of clear your thoughts so that you feel more open to things. But you do need some space. There's something a little bit, as I say, vampiric about the energy that's been around you. So you know that you're heading in the right direction for this. Okay, let's have a look at the astrology energy around you, pile 2, for January 2022. Okay, I think this is saying, although there's all sorts of things, as I say, there's sort of family energy that I feel from this, there's love energy that I feel from this, but I do think it is actually saying that a lot of it, for a lot of the people who've come here, it is somehow to do with work. We have the 6th house, which is your service to others and your day-to-day work, and we have the 2nd house, which is money, possessions, and so forth. Certainly, if this is about a relationship breaking up that has, material connections, then don't make your service to others make you too generous. Make choices that are fair in that, like don't be outfoxed in a divorce proceedings or something like that. If that's going, now if that's happening, January 2022 is not like the big surprise and it's going to happen. I think if that resonates, you already know it. And all this is saying is that with the waning gibbous moon, with the calm after the storm and the gratitude of, like, you've made a decision and you can move forward. Don't become too generous, because there's something in your nature that is very generous. So just be aware of that. You have a tendency to serve others before you serve yourself. And part of who you are is all about that. But you have a right to possessions and material outcomes as well. If it is around a new offer around work and leadership or whatever, then it's after a period of the storm, it's after whatever this conflict was, but you are moving into a better position to deal with it. You are moving towards what the promise of those houses are. So I definitely think around your work and so forth and around your possessions, you're heading into a better period of time than you've been in. All right, let's use the Lenormand, which is more like a classic fortune deck. So I feel it often picks up the sort of energies that are external, that sort of come in to our life that we haven't controlled, but of course that we can then choose what we do with. But I just see it as a bit different to tarot and some of these other oracles, in that it is a kind of fortune deck. So let's see what energy around January 2022 there is for you. Okay, so that's very well aspected. That's great. So house is feeling at home, feeling stable. Bouquet is sort of well wishes, is good energy, is luck. So I think Spirit is very much saying here that that, you know, if it is empty nest, then there will still be the connections. If it is shifting to sort of live somewhere else, then you will still have it will be a good outcome. If it is around career, you will feel at home where you're going, and there is some degree of luck and recognition coming to you. So I do think it's saying the worst is over, but it is saying remember what you got from this. Remember the knowing that you got from this, and make the choice to close, because whatever that energy is, it won't close. It's having a good time vampirizing you. So you need to kind of separate if that resonates for you. And if it's about other things, as I say, like children or relationships that were fine but have done their time, then allow yourself to close it, because something stable and you know, deeply personal to you and positive can come through by just having the courage to do that. All right, so let's finish off with some fortune elements in a different way. So I want to firstly ask one deck, what are the signs that you would see when you are heading in the right direction to get the best out of this energy? And then we're going to use some fortune dice that are sort of channeled angelic energies and messages. So firstly, what signs would pile 2 need to keep an eye out for in January 2022? Oh wow, we've got house again. Okay, there's something about home here. There is definitely something about home. If you are looking to sell a home, I mean, that could be a very basic sort of way of reading some of this, making material decisions to leave maybe a home and close out on that and close a good deal. That suggests that you're going to do it. You're going to get what you want and then a new outcome. So it's a very specific thing, but the fact that house has come out twice really makes me think that could be the case for some of you. And it may even be something around work that has triggered the need to do that. Maybe you're moving or something like that. And maybe there's some that weren't overly happy with it. Or if you've been dealing with sort of real estate issues, that can be a little bit tricky as well. So just, you know, keep on your guard and be aware so that you can get the best outcome with it. But I think it's very well aspected. And if part of whatever this change is to sell a home or is to find a new home, then it may well be saying once you find that, that's when this luck comes in. So that's pretty specific. Beyond that, if you sort of see things about real estate or something like that, pay attention to it. It might be a sign that you're connecting more with your material aims and your material needs, you know, and less with the sort of selfless energy that you tend to have, I think, Paul. 2. So now let's use the fortune dice. So these are dice from a woman called Bobby Richardson. She has her own YouTube channel. If you want to check it out, she channels angelic and sort of starseed type of information and advice. And she developed these dice. So some are numbers for angel numbers, and there's a couple that have particular sort of messages that link to what she's channeled and seen. So let's see what energy is for you in 2022, January 2022. So that's interesting. For a start, you've got 22. 22 is a master number. It is a number of spiritual knowing. It's a number of manifestation in many ways. So I think it's very much, again, saying your spiritual knowing will help you come out with what you want. And you also have guidance. It can be hard to read these, but you have guidance. So your high priestess is connecting to spiritual support. The numbers that you have, which could mean something to you in the day-to-day and also could mean the angelic stuff, which we'll talk about, are 2, 3, and 8. So those numbers bring quite a lot of information around creativity and fertility in very broad senses, which I think is this sort of Pentacles energy at the beginning. Remember I said if you have been looking for, you know, wanting to start a family, for instance, the sort of connection of 2 and 3 together there is very, very good for the sense of fertility and bringing something into being. And for others of you, if it's a creative project or a business project, it's very well aspected, particularly with the 8, because the 8 is about power and authority and wealth. So you definitely have this opportunity to step up as long as you have the courage to do it and you believe in yourself. You have a new idea, a new creative project, and a capacity to connect with the right people too, with the 3 there to take that forward. It's a very materially oriented month for you. Even though I think you're very strongly guided spiritually, the outcomes and decisions around this are very material. So whether that's what you do around a family, whether that's where you live, whether that's a career opportunity or a business opportunity, whether it's a relationship. If it's a relationship, there's something about moving into something that has more status and more authority associated with it. Whatever the material aspects of your life are, and I think that's again why house came up twice, that's what you're seeding. That's what you're seeding in January 2022. And I think as long as you just be a little bit more selfish than you normally are, because you're not the sort of person who's going to become selfish. But if you get that balance in and you make the choices about the material outcomes and you listen to your inner knowing, and this too, for some of you around career with the 8 there and the 2, that is stepping into leadership or authority roles yourself. Back yourself if you're doing that, and don't listen to those that might want to kind of feed off you in a negative way. I don't think you can go too wrong in January 2022 and with what this is birthing for you in the new year in general. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 2. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you do know what this is or you have a sense of it, love to hear about it in the comments. Beyond that, I wish you well and I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So these first cards are to indicate some of the key energies and blessings and so forth that could be coming in for you in January 2022, and we'll then clarify it a bit with any advice from Spirit. You're almost going to be spoilt for choice, I think, and that is your one challenge in January 2022, I think, because over here with the 7 of Cups, I feel like you're sort of someone, because with the Magician, you've really kind of mastered something, or you really understand yourself really well, and with the Fool, you have that readiness, that courage, and that sort of sense of adventure to move forward and do something. And with the King of Cups, you really understand people, emotions and so forth. You're really in tune with whatever environment you're in. There are a lot of options on your table in one way or another. Now, whether this is around relationship, whether there's a number of people that you could date or become close to, or a number of ways a relationship you're in could manifest and you're trying to work out what you want, or whether it's creative projects, or whether it's career options, or whether it's something to study, like who do you want to be in the world? You're sort of starting out on your journey. You're one of those multi-talented people. And that can be a challenge in whatever this is, multi-talented or incredibly charismatic and draw a lot of people to you, because the Judgment card is reversed. The one energy you've got around you, I think, is a reluctance to make a decision. And I'm getting, in a way, that's okay, because Judgment is reversed. When Judgment comes up the right way, I often say that an energy around that is that if you don't make a choice about something, it's almost like no choice becomes the choice. The opportunity disappears. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but if it is something you seriously were thinking about, then you need to make a choice. You need not to avoid it. But I'm getting for you, for some reason, Spirit is saying it might be okay. You don't have to make all your decisions in January 2022. You're sort of poised to go on this new adventure, whether it's a new romantic adventure, whether it's a new career adventure, a new study, whatever it might be. You might also literally be looking at, I can finally travel again after all the restrictions in 2020 and 2021. Where do I go to? What do I do? How do I best use the resources that I have? You know, what adventure do I want? Because there's an adventurous feeling here. But you're multi-talented, or you've got lots of options, and making the choice is hard. And I think that some of your emotional wisdom here is what's putting the brakes on making the choice. I think that you really understand you could kind of go in any number of ways. You have the creativity and the inspiration and the skills, but it's a little bit premature to make too much of a choice. Now, for some of you, you might have to. It might be there's job offers and you need to choose one. Others, it might be that you do have to make a decision about what you're going to study, what courses you're going to do, whatever it might be. And that's okay if that's the case. Maybe try and make the choice that has an escape clause, that you could potentially do something else, or work out how you could do something else if you decided sometime down the track that wasn't really quite the best choice you could have made. Or even for some of you, is there something you can do for a career, and is there something you can do for a hobby that may eventually be a bit of a side gig or something like that. But you're the multi-talented one, and that is wonderful, but it does have its challenges. And I think there's something about January 2022 that's bringing that to the fore. So let's ask Spirit, or you're very attractive and you've got lots of romantic offers, and ditto again, it has its own issues. Let's ask Spirit for some advice, in particular how to know the right timing to make the decision, and maybe how to balance that, how to deal with the almost embarrassment of riches type of feeling that is around you. Okay, So firstly, I believe that Spirit is telling me quite clearly that it's right that you can consider the decisions a little bit longer. You don't feel pressured to make a decision, or if you have to make one, then you can work out the escape clause, because the Death card to me is a card where there is a kind of like it's a key choice that like it comes at a pivotal time and so forth, and sometimes there's a bit of fate around it and sometimes the options are a bit limited, but I don't think that's the case for you because of the Seven of Cups. But it's also one where you usually have a little bit of time to make the decision. The world is not going to collapse if you're not going to do that. So I do think it's saying don't be premature in a decision in January 2022. Maybe there's more information to come to you, and it may come from an authority figure with the Emperor there. So if this is around work, it may be that if you took an opportunity in January 2022, like 2 months later, somebody senior in your organisation might have been able to offer you something else, and then that doorway is shut for the moment. So that might be why it's kind of delaying things. And I am getting, for some of you, if you have a mentor or a coach or something like that, talk to them about this. They may help you work out an action plan to work through the variables and so forth. And to understand where part of your difficulty in making the decision might be not wanting to upset your friends and the people and the colleagues around you, because I think you have some really good relationships with people, and I think you're a little bit worried that some of this may disturb that. This could be the classic thing where you move into a leadership role when you've been in a team, but I think that you need to process some of those issues before you take it on so that you're ready for it. And this is where I think maybe a mentor could help you. You are very emotionally authentic. So I do think if that was the case, you'll be able to make that transition more than you think that you could. Interestingly enough, if this is about relationship, this is saying that you need to find someone who has the same emotional patterning as you. It's literally like the king and queen here. It doesn't have to be about gender in any sense, but it's about finding the other half in a way of you, because you're in the emotional phase and very well developed there, and so is your potential partner. And it may be saying that one of the other options you have with the Emperor, and then with these Wands cards, particularly with the Two of Wands reversed, there may be someone who's incredibly charismatic and very physically attractive, and there's a lot of passion for, but you kind of know it's not as good a match. It's not as in symmetry with you, and this person is a bit immature, likely to try and be boss all the time because they're a bit immature. So it's a bit specific here, but I'm getting that for some of you, if it's a choice about partner, there might be this sort of exciting, youthful, vibrant sort of person who ultimately might clash with you compared to the person who's maybe a bit quieter, a little bit more introverted, but very emotionally resonant and likely to be there with you and loyal with you and at your same sort of level. So that might be again why take a bit of time to think it through. So whatever this is, you're ready, poised to go and travel on this adventure and really start to be who you want to be in a relationship or in your career. But you do need to really think it through. And it's interesting because you are very, I think, passionate and very emotional, and that's where you come from. You come from the heart, you come from your drive, you come from your passion. We're not seeing swords cards there. And that's why I feel like that's why Spirit is putting a bit of a break on this, and why maybe going and getting the counsel from somebody about this. The only kind of energy I feel is a bit swordy is the Magician. I always feel like that's a little bit of the air element, though technically it's all the elements, but I always feel that a bit with the Magician. But I don't think that that's necessarily how you tend to make decisions. So I think that's a little bit of caution for you. So let's have a look at the various areas of your life to get maybe a better sense about whether this is an energy across all the areas of your life, or whether it's about relationship more, or career more, or well-being more. So I am using the Heart Code Oracles for a card from the career deck, the well-being deck, and the relationship deck, and also then another oracle to complement each of those to sort of drill into that detail for you. So firstly, for career, we have prioritization. Well, there's that energy. Part of that choice is maybe what do you do first? What's your priority? How do you come into your leadership or your sort of like sovereignty around that? So I do think for many, this is about kind of career things, and where do you put the priorities of your significant and diverse skills? And we've got real estate. Okay, so some of you may be working in real estate in some way, And again, you're very well placed. You would have that mix of emotional sort of connection to people if you're selling properties, understanding what they want, understanding the aspirational aspects that people have and all that kind of thing. But don't let the talent get ahead of almost the structure and the understanding of the decision, if that's the case. But I also think it may not be about real estate always. It might be about building a solid foundation. So I think it is suggesting around your career, you do need to prioritize what you can do with your talents, because you need to build a solid foundation. After that, maybe you can branch out and do some of your other interests and some of your other abilities, but there's a sense of trying to prioritize and consolidate, and that's why the choice needs to be carefully made. Okay, let's have a look at wellbeing, and we've got triggers. I don't know if you can read that. Triggers and strength. Okay, so I think that's telling us a couple of things. You have so many strengths, you have so many abilities and so forth. Maybe that the idea that you have to let any of them go is a bit of a trigger for you. Maybe being this sort of polymath, multi-talented person is very important to you, but it is important, at least in your career, to be prioritising at the moment. It could also be that it's saying, could be a hair trigger sort of response to things. Remember, one of your strengths is that there are different ways of doing things and you have the skills to do different things. So again, I think it's just a warning to don't be precipitous. Don't suddenly just make a decision, particularly from just your heart and your passion, because you need to also, there is a strength with the magician around how you can view the world, but you need to prioritize. You need to open that part. It may feel a bit boring compared to the passion and the love and all that kind of stuff. And if it's around relationships, then there's something about a power struggle potentially. I think more with this person who's a little bit sort of passionate and exciting, if that's the case. Remember your own strength in that situation. So going to relationships, we have harmony. So you have the potential for harmony. We have regret. Okay. So maybe if this is around relationships, maybe there is a bit of a regret about having to make a choice, that some of you may literally have more than one person that you're seeing at the moment. It's really hard to choose between them, and there's going to be a sense of regret either way. Maybe there's a part of you that doesn't like to give up on anything, really, wants to be able to explore everything, but you do need to prioritize in your career and also to some degree in your relationship. And it's about harmony. This is why I feel like there's passion, but there's conflict in this relationship. There's harmony in this one. And I think Spirit is saying you need to think about that sort of thing when you're making your choices, because you can choose either way. It's completely up to you. But if you do go in this direction, you're more likely to have the triggers and some of the conflict and the battles for strength and control and so forth, that you're not likely to have as much with maybe this quieter feeling relationship that is very emotionally deep. Okay, let's have a look at astrology energy for you in January 2022. Okay, I do think this is telling me that most of you have come here around career. A lot of this is around career. I mean, it could be around relationships as well. There's nothing to say that it wouldn't be. But a lot of you, with the 10th house coming up, there are some real times to harvest and to get the benefit of the skills that you have and how far you've come, whether that's you're quite young and you're just finishing college or university or a trade or whatever, and you're ready to go out into the world and make money with it, or whether you have been doing that for a while and now your multi-talents have been recognised and there are real opportunities to move forward. And so when you're coming into the harvest, you do need to think about the next step, and this is where we've got the North Node. Now, the North Node is traditionally the direction we're going in. It's our life path in some way. It's a bit like the sun in that level, in that it's something that we're developing towards. And if you know where your North Node is, there's something about that. I've also heard astrologers discuss it in sort of more ancient astrology as being a place where there's a hunger we have that is hard to completely satiate. We are drawn towards it, and we are kind of almost as part of our fate and our character and our development drawn to it deliberately. It's the enticing thing that is always just a little bit out of reach, but we keep moving towards and we get closer and closer to. And I think that's a really interesting combination of ways of seeing the North Node, and also for you seeing the Seven of Cups, because I think your big challenge is there's so many things you could do. And how do you don't get to do them all, I guess, is the answer to that. You can't satiate the need to want to be all the things. So you've really got to prioritize and work out where is the true North Star? Who do you really want to be in the world? And I think there's something about January 2022 that's going to help you clarify that. But give yourself time. So we also want to look at the Lenormand, which is a more classic fortune deck. So this is just to get classic fortune energy. Of course, you can do whatever you like with this when you know. It doesn't mean that something is fated, but it is a little bit more like external factors or energies that come in that you then need to make choices about, not that you have choices whether the energy comes in, if that makes sense. So let's see what we have for January 2022 for you. Okay, so stork can mean things like children. So for some of you, this may be the choice to settle down and to have a family as opposed to sort of be out and be free in the world and so forth. And if that's the case, then I think family would come along quite quickly. Not necessarily in January 2022, though if you are in a situation where you are in fact in a partnership already, it's good partnership, and now there's you have to make your options and prioritization about what you do with your career and your multi-talents because you have children to look after, then it's a good aspect for that. Otherwise, I think the stork is new ideas, new opportunities and so forth coming in that eventually is going to anchor you. So I think if you combine the Seven of Cups, the North Node and the anchor with that, it really is saying why Spirit is saying take a little bit of time to really explore this and decide is that you are going to make a commitment of some form, from January 2022 onwards. And I don't think most of you will make it in January 2022, but I think you will become aware of the options. And that is why Spirit takes time, because once you've committed, you will commit. For all that you have all these multi-talents and there's a bit of the air of the adventurer about you, nevertheless, when you make this decision, you are going to commit to it. And so you need to think about the implications of that and what do the choices offer to you. Okay, so maybe to help you with that, we're going to finish off with some things around signs and energies and information from sort of the angelic or spiritual realm. So firstly, I'm asking for a card to tell me what signs you might see that can help you know you're on the right path to making that decision and that you're doing what Spirit suggests, which is prioritizing and really thinking it through. Okay, baby. All right, so definitely there's some of you that this may be about really settling down, anchoring, having a family. Maybe even hearing that, you are going to have a baby or your partner is going to have a baby is the thing that helps you prioritize and work out, well, there are all these things on my table that I could have done, but now I have this little human to bring into the mix. So that could literally be the case for some. For others, I think baby is a symbol of the new opportunity. And so you may see babies, you may hear about your friends having children. There could be anything like that, any of those sorts of things around a child, around new ideas and the new birth and the new opportunity. And that's kind of the Fool energy there as well too, like the really new and the innocent. There's those sort of energies, those sorts of ideas, those sort of things turning up in your frame of reference is a sign that you are really starting to understand the commitment, I think, that you will have to whatever it is you finally decide in whatever area of your life this is. Okay, so let's finish off with some fortune dice. These are done by a woman called Bobby Richardson, who has her own YouTube channel if you want to check it out. She asked me just to mention that when using her dice, which she kindly allowed me to use for these readings. So she channels starseed and sort of angelic sort of energy. So there's a combination of these. There's a couple of dice that pick up what she channels in general, the sorts of key messages or energy, and then there's also numbers for angelic numbers. So let's see what you have for you in January 2022. Okay, there's something about 2022 I've got to say. I mean, with the 3 2s, it's going to be a significant sort of consolidation sort of thing, and 2s are really, really powerful for you because you've got 2 2s there as well too, as well as 2 2 there. So that's a power number, that's a master manifester. It's picking up the magician, it's picking up that you really are the multi-talented person and all of that sort of stuff. The beauty is you've also got guidance, so you are going to get guidance in what you do. So listen to your inner knowing, listen to spirit guides, etc. And with 2 2s and with 9, as I say, firstly we have the power sort of sense of the 2 2s. it's also about profound connection. So I do think, regardless of whether this is manifesting in your career, whether it's manifesting in family or in a love relationship, there is this when you've got 9, which is bringing in sort of spiritual energy and spiritual and karmic connections, and a double 2 and then the 22 there. One of your options around relationship, and I do think in this case it's probably more likely romantic, but it could be a work partner as well too, is very karmic, is very spiritually aligned, is very important, and is going to have a huge impact on what your karma and your spiritual life purpose is. So again, I think that's why Spirit's saying be careful. I think you've got options about either how to manifest a relationship or who to manifest it with. And I think this is saying whatever that is around, career, love, family, or all of the above, this is a profound one. So take the time, take the guidance, because there's something about this decision that's going to have flow-on effects throughout your life, I think. And obviously it will if you're having a child or something like that, and that's a very profound karmic connection if you are, but equally if it's choosing a life partner or it's choosing a career that will bring in the relationships that are important. So do take the time, pile 3. You have so many options and you're so talented and you probably can make anything work, but there's something that there's a fate energy here, which if you actually move towards that, then you are going to find your life purpose, satiating that wish of the North Node and so forth. All of that is going to be so much easier. So it's pretty full on. I hope that this is helpful. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you do know what this is, be really interested to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Sorry, welcome pile 4 to your reading. Just changing over the number because I remembered I hadn't done that. So welcome pile 4 to your reading. These first cards are to give a bit of a sense of some of the dominant energies in January 2022, what blessings and opportunities and so forth might be in play. And I do think that many of the people coming to this reading have had a difficult time in 2021. You're coming off the back of maybe some reversals of fortune or things not working out the way that you wanted them to do, because the Wheel of Fortune is reversed in the first card. There's actually one other reading in this that you might have been drawn to that had a similar sort of coming into 2022 type energy. So some of you might have been drawn to that one as well. What I will say is there's some significant things coming in 2022, and I think they're much better. I think you're coming out of that cycle because you have a different perspective on things. It's almost as though whatever the reversal was meant to position you to have position in the world that was much more significant, and an opportunity to be your own boss, or have the resources to be able to be who you want to be more than possibly you were before. This would be classic sort of reading for somebody who left a workplace last year and you are now potentially building your own business, or in January 2022 there's offers and opportunities for you to really build and establish money, or you may have been able to leave because you already did establish that. So you're in a position now to be more your own boss and to be more your own spiritual, philosophical and almost sort of structural architect of your own life in a way with the Hierophant. There's definitely the sense of potential of abundance coming in with the Empress, but this is because, as I say, with the Hangman reversed, you've actually decided to look at things differently and not to self-sacrifice so much. I think some of you might have put others first a lot, and that's a very honourable and lovely thing, but maybe you got it out of balance. I feel like the Hanged Man here, you're saying that enough of that. I'm now going to be looking at what I need to do materially and building my own business, my own career, my own relationships, or even potentially being on your own. It may be that you have separated from a longer term relationship potentially with the Hierophant there, one that involved either marriage or living together. You've separated from that. That last energy is moving out now, so that you are more sure of yourself in some way and more able to bring in abundance. So it could be around relationship. But as I say, if it's that, I feel it's more that you are stepping away from one and living for yourself, which does not mean that you could not find somebody in January 2022 or you could not in 2022 in general. But I feel like there's a pattern to this, an evolution towards independence and feeling materially and creatively secure in yourself and your view of the world. Excuse me. If you are Don't know what's going on. I think there must be something that you need to express as well, because I'm getting some stuff in my throat chakra. So I'm just going to pause for a second and go and get a glass of water. Back again, and that's better. Sorry about that. I had laryngitis for quite a number of weeks, probably about 4 years ago now, and my vocal cords haven't been quite what they used to be ever since. So every once in a while that happens. But I do think it kind of happens when Spirit's trying to tell me something about communication. And I think maybe this reversal of fortune was somebody who wasn't the right person for you, or wasn't fair, wasn't truthful, wasn't on the up and up in some way. They may have had a connection to your workplace, or even to academia or something like that if you were studying something, or even potentially spiritual, religious sort of things. You might have moved away from a religious way of looking at things to follow your own path. But if that's the case, part of what this is saying, and that kind of problem I have with my throat, might be saying that now that you have a different perspective, to really manifest your abundance, you're going to start to speak out about what you really believe and who you are and what you want in some way. So I do think that's important. It's important to do that. And I'm also getting, because I needed to go and have a glass of water, make sure that you keep yourself hydrated. So maybe there's someone who's coming to this reading who tends to sort of run themselves ragged a bit and isn't sort of nourishing themselves enough. So maybe there's a bit of a message there as well. Okay, let's ask Spirit for some further clarification on this and advice about how to move into your own sort of sense of independence and security and creativity and abundance that isn't as reliant on, kind of traditional institutions or other people in some way. Okay, I'm getting two different things here, two different versions of what this is about, is what I mean. The first, I think, is covering these cards here. And this is definitely saying that there's something about what's happened to you in the past that is making the move towards independence a move towards freedom. And you took a while to make that decision, because I think you're quite loyal to the organisations or whatever it might be that have been supposedly supporting you, taking you forward or whatever. But that loyalty and the rules that they had you sort of walking on eggshells, really. You're really, really careful about what you said. You didn't feel like, and it was always like, do I have enough energy or enough power or enough status? That might be also why I was getting that throat thing. I think you were somewhere where you couldn't really speak the truth, where you had to be very careful about what you did and kept your decisions and your viewpoints to yourself. And it's like now you're going to move into something that is more you, that is freeing yourself from an environment that was not a particularly healthy one by the looks of things. And to do that to some degree, it's a major revolution within yourself and the Tower. But I feel that the Devil reverse and then the Tower together is actually a really powerful thing. It's a sort of Uranian sort of energy of revolution that's very, very positive, and that it brings in another offer or a sense of emotional destiny and emotional direction. So if this is around leaving a bad workplace, and you finally in January 2022 and going forward have the resources to either leave because you've got a nest egg and you can then look for the right thing, or because there's been a new opportunity or a new business that you have that you can take forward and make money from. Either way, I feel as though there will be opportunities coming. There's a new opportunity coming, and January 2022 is likely to be where that is first obvious to you. And then you get ready to make that change and to own who you are. The other thing is potentially around relationship. So if this was a bad relationship, potentially, as I say, maybe long-term, that you separated from, you've kind of understood maybe that you were being gaslit a bit. With this sort of energy, if that's in a relationship, there was something not quite right about this. There's something quite manipulative if that's the case. And that Tower energy with the Knight of Cups might be the right person coming in. And it might be the very thing. So it may be either has just happened, like you've finally met the person you really, really feel connected to, and you need to get yourself free so that you can do that, or this relationship has gone through a major change of Tower energy, but that opens you up for something that's more authentic. So there's definitely something that wasn't right, whether it's relationship, career, or both. And you have put yourself in the position to liberate yourself because you've put everything in place to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and be in a relationship in a more equal way if it's around a relationship. But Spirit is probably saying that there's still some major changes coming in 2022 that will position you really well. I feel like the Tower is actually very good here and will open your heart and your creativity to new opportunities. So don't fear that. The worst is really done. This Tower energy that's remaining is about breaking down everything else that isn't going to serve you and opening your heart. I do feel like whatever this is made you feel quite dark about, you know, the place you were working, the person you were with, whatever it might be. But you really, this Spirit is saying, yes, moving into who you are and bringing that energy in is a revolution that's very, very positive and necessary. Okay, so let's have a look at what other energy is around you. So firstly, I've got some cards from the Heart Code Oracles and also from other oracles as well. So the Heart Code Oracles have different topics. One's career, one's well-being, and one's love and relationships that I'm using for these readings. And I've also got a complementary card from a different oracle that I think matches with each of those areas. So let's first of all look at career. Okay, we've got denial. And there is something better. Okay, I do think there is something, you know this now. I think you maybe were in denial for quite a long period of time around this. It was sort of like, this is the career I should be in. This is, what my family always did, whatever it might be. You very much kind of didn't want to see what was going on, but you've seen it now. It's like something's taken away the innocence and shown you that there is something better. And it's very likely that you'll either get offered that in January 2022 or you'll start to see the direction to start looking in to bring that in because, you really have realised that. So there's something, and it may be that you were being denied in that workplace. No matter what you did, you maybe couldn't get forward, but that's because there is something better. And this is all meant to take you towards something that is more emotionally fulfilling for you in your career. Let's have a look at well-being. So we have anxiety and written words. Okay, so I'm getting a few things there. I'm getting that some of this might be around career. It might be that if the written words cause anxiety, maybe, performance reviews or something weren't fair. Like it's not your fault, there's something about the environment. But there's something about the written word, there's something about contracts, there's something about all those things that cause anxiety. Now, if this is picking up that if you wanted to do your own business, and you have some anxiety, it causes you some anxiety, all the details, and I would understand that. I get anxiety every year I do tax, even though I have an accountant, I'm sort of like overly scrupulous about all of it to make sure it's right because I just worry about those sort of things. If you're that sort of person, and maybe particularly around contracts, just get good advice, get legal advice. It's worth it. It's worth the investment because you will feel much more comfortable and confident about what you're doing. You're meant to be going through a major change in who you are and who you want to be and to bring energy and manifestation in. You're not meant to be worrying about details that will just kind of cause you sort of anxiety within yourself. There are people who can do that. Get the advice that you need. And don't rely on a tarot reader when it comes to that. Go and get professional advice. Okay. And then relationships, we have judgment and hope. Okay, yeah. So if this is about relationship, if it's about one you're breaking up, if it's just about relationships in your workplace, friends, family or whatever, I do think you've been unfairly judged. I absolutely think you have. And you've realised that now. And I think some of it might have been that people recognise what you could be and were a bit threatened by it. But have hope. You are going to move into something where your authenticity and your autonomy and your abundance is much more either that you self-generate it and you don't need to worry about the opinions of others, or that the judgments will shift, that you will have hope. And if you've been in a difficult relationship, then allow yourself to go into hope, because once this Tower energy is gone, you get the Knight of Cups, you get a much better sort of connection. So you see in this card in particular, because it's picking up romantic relationships, a couple embracing. So allow yourself to know that once you do your cry to the heavens for independence, you'll bring in a better energy. It's not so much about other people's judgments. It's about you owning yourself and speaking your truth and so forth. Okay. Let's have a look at what astrology energy is around you in January 2022. Okay. So firstly, this is showing for many of you, there is potentially a new love, a new romance coming in. So that's great. I think you deserve it. I think you need to cut a break. I think it's been hard, pile 4, but I think you're heading into a much luckier thing. Jupiter is the great benefic. It's the wheel of fortune, and it's about growth, and it's about, you know, becoming who you want to be and so forth. And when working at its best, it is just good fortune. And most of the time it is. Sometimes with Jupiter it can be too much of something. So that's something to be aware of. Don't let the anxiety become too much. Don't let your denial of yourself become too much. Don't let your reliance on the judgment of others become too much, because Jupiter can expand things too much in that thing. I think though that you have come to this realization. So I think you will get the, you know, the overly benefic energy of Jupiter, and I think that's lovely. But you may struggle sometimes with accepting that good fortune, because in the 12th house, that's sort of what we keep private. It's depth psychology. I think it is asking you to really own that you deserve better, that you might have almost called something to this because, you know, from family programming or something like that, that you actually felt that you didn't deserve the good fortune or whatever, or you had to do certain sets of rules and behave a particular way, or you had to be in a relationship, you know, even if it wasn't perfect, to be meeting, you know, the requirements to sort of bring manifestation in. This is very much saying you can do it yourself. And then you can bring the right love in potentially as well, which is great. Jupiter in the 5th house together with the Knight of Cups, there's a great deal of promise around that. But you have to own that you have the right to have happiness, that you are not there at everybody's beck and call. Okay. I also want to use the Lenormand in this reading as a kind of a fortune card. I always think of Lenormand and decks like this as about fortune, about things that almost come in from the outside that obviously you still have free choice around, but which, you know, either maybe you didn't expect, or which are going to be on the table to look at as part of your fortune, as part of your life path in this period of time. Okay, so the lily is a positive enough card, though it sometimes can mean sort of like getting over something, getting over ill health and so forth, that kind of thing. So with the snake card there, I think it's just saying that yes, you are going to be in a process of recovery from something that was not right, something that was not to be trusted, and you do need to not overly give the benefit of the doubt to this snake, to be honest, to not worry about whether you hurt them, or, you know, feel that you have to heal them. You really need to look forward to what is a healthier and a better type of relationship, because you've given too much energy, too much caring and so forth to people who didn't deserve it, to be honest. And I just think Spirit's saying you just have to remember that and to heal from that, and you will heal from that as you start to move towards really who you're meant to be. Okay, so let's ask how you're going to know that this is happening. So we're going to sort of close out firstly with a deck that shows signs. So signs that could tell you on a kind of spiritual, psychic level that you are really on the right track. And then we're going to use some fortune dice to get some sort of angelic information, advice and energy around January 2022 for you. So firstly, what is the type of signs that you would see? That's interesting. That came up in another reading. So baby. So some of you, with that coming in, maybe one of the issues that you're having to deal with around this, and this might go back to the Empress card being there actually, I'm getting, you know, maybe some of you, if you're separating from a relationship, there is a child that you also have to take into account. If that's the case, you can still have that connection. I'm getting there is a way to do that you can do that, but don't let that be a manipulative thing from the other party if that's the case. That's quite specific if you resonate to that. Beyond that, I think babies represent the new, the nurturing, the caring. I think it is a balance of your nurturing nature, but putting it towards something that also nurtures you. So be your own mother to your own inner child, I'm getting. And if you see babies around, hear songs about babies, hear that word or whatever, all these sort of things, pay attention to what you're thinking about, choices you're making at that time, because if you then look into them and say, is this me nurturing myself, then I think you're on the right track. Okay, so let's finish up with the fortune dice. So these come from a woman called Bobby Richardson, who has her own YouTube channel. She channels starseed and angelic energy, so you may want to check that out. she developed these dice. 3 of them are just numbers that pick up angel numbers, but 2 are dice that show sort of aspects of energy that she channels. So let's see what advice they have for you for January 2022. So firstly, in terms of her cards, we have 11, which is of course a power number. It's a number of being who you are, coming into alignment with that and so forth, and spiritual development. And we have oneness. So I think there is a profound spiritual side of this. Maybe some of you, as I say, have left a spiritual, more restrictive spiritual background into something that you feel more at one and more connected to. But I think that this is saying when you feel that sense of oneness with a relationship, it's the right one. When you feel a sense of your own personal power, then you can be at one with yourself and then at one with others. And I think there is a connection with the all there to support you as well. So in terms of the numbers, these numbers really double down on the whole message of this, because 1 is all about you, your life path, and being who you are, which is very much the energy of this. And the 9 connecting to it can be when there's a powerful life purpose shift, and part of that is letting go of what isn't working anymore. So that's that message all the way through. It's supporting that. If you feel you need to let things go, you're right. Don't second guess it. Don't feel that you are letting people down. Don't worry about judgment. Don't deny yourself. You are on the right path, but it may require letting certain things go to bring new creative energy in. Interestingly, the 1 and 3 together can be a connection to have a child or something like that. So that may be the case for some of you, that there is that sort of new life coming in. But more generally, if it's not that, and you're not sort of trying to work out your responsibilities around that sort of energy, then, and maybe not taking on the viewpoint of other people around that, like working out how it works for you, then I think it's much more likely to be about a new creative project, a new approach that's more aligned with who you are and which has a major change energy around it for you, is spiritually supported. Remember, there's oneness and the 11 there. So 111 as well. So again, the 1 energy around you, you being you, is the key to January 2022 and to really getting the year off to a good start, is you owning yourself and owning what is right for you. And as I say, nurturing your own inner child. So I hope that resonates for you, pile 4, and I hope that you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share on any of this, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.